anytime.
Hello, I'm Frank Pullia, and I'm here in the studio of NetNewsLedger as a member of the Institute of Italian Studies, and we have our guest here today, Joe Volpe, former cabinet minister and member of parliament from 1988 to 2011.
Sounds like a long time, but it really just passed just like that.
And welcome to Thunder Bay. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Pleasure's mine.
And we are here on as a guest of the Institute of Italian Studies, and you'll be speaking to an Italian audience or larger audience in Thunder Bay today at lunch and this evening at the Da Vinci Center. But also, I wanted to ask you some questions about your new role as a publisher of the Corriere Canadese, which is a new print paper in Toronto, but also across the country. Since you have become the publisher, what has changed from before?
Well, thanks for pointing out that we are a paper that's national in scope. It's an Italian language daily. It's completely different from what was there before, but I should give credit to what was there before. It was a newspaper that emerged in 1954 out of Toronto, and over the years it went across Canada. Expensive, but it was an Italian-Canadian's connection to Italy and to an emerging and developing community of which they played a central role. So, to the Institute for Italian Studies in Thunder Bay, they would really appreciate this because I've got the archives from 1954 until today. It's all sitting in our office, and that documents the history of Italian Canadians as they developed and lived and grew with this country. It's a typical Canadian experience, an immigrant experience. Ours is that it's Italian in scope. The connection with Italy, that's remained. We've changed the entire format. It's a much more lively paper, full color, easier to digest. Lots of focus on sports because soccer's in our blood. Lots of focus on politics because we're argumentative. Lots of focus on food because if we don't eat, forget about everything else. And style. We like to have style. Like everybody has to, in Italian, they deve fare una bella figura. Okay? And of course, innovation. A lot of people don't know that Italy is a center of innovative work. It's going through some tough times today, but so we want to cover all those things. We want to cover those things for everybody in Canada. We thought that we would introduce an English language component, but we started off in Italian, just strictly Italian.
So for those Italians who are looking at Canada as a window of opportunity now, would you have a digital version that they could also see and receive online?
We just started that actually. It's still growing. I don't want to confuse anybody with the thinking that, they go on there, bing, here we are. But yeah, we're going to be digital. And we're going to be doing, hopefully with people like you, some live streaming of some current events and places that people don't normally think accommodate and host Italians. But Thunder Bay's got one of the biggest per capita Italian communities in all of Canada. And by that I mean a community that not only identifies itself culturally and ethnically as Italian, but linguistically. And so we'd like to be able to capture that experience digitally. So right now we're going online with our print product, but it's a more passive than interactive approach. We're hoping to start to put a lot more active media in.
Well, I remember receiving the Corriere Canadese on a daily basis on my smartphone and being able to be not only in touch with an Italian-Canadian perspective about what was happening in Canada, but also in Italy. So it works both ways, and I guess, your paper now will it'll be a vehicle, an opportunity to also see Italy from the perspective of the Italian-Canadians in Canada and the Italians from Italy looking at through that window into Canada. I think it's going to be, it's a great opportunity now, and I'm really glad that the Italians in Thunder Bay and in Toronto and across Canada will be glad to hear that you as the publisher now, your experience in politics, your experience in the community will provide that perspective.
Well, you give me a a lot of compliments, and I thank you. But I keep in mind that that really means that you're putting on my shoulders a lot more responsibility that I could probably have great opportunity to shortchange, and I don't want to. But you're right about us being a window on Canada and on Italy. The one thing that Italians do really, really poorly is advance themselves. So here you have a country. It's a beautiful country. You know, forget about who lives there, but it's a beautiful country, and it's got 70% of the world's artistic and architectural artifacts. 70%. Why do you think that these people go out there and promote themselves and invite people to go there on tourism with packages and sell their history, their culture, their life? They don't. Okay? Do they know about us? I mean, think about the opportunities that are available in Canada, that people, you know, they came here at a time when they weren't thinking about opportunities in Canada, they were just thinking about making a next meal. And we've built one of the best societies in the world. It's not for nothing that we're part of the G8. And it doesn't mean that we just have a lot of money and great potential, but we've actually structured a society that's still quite the envy of the world. You know, at one time, I think for 9 years in a row, we ended up on the Human Rights Index of the UN as #1 country in the world to go to. You know, we've collapsed a little bit since then. But I'm not gonna make a comment on why, but you know, we're still way up there. And so our paper gives us an opportunity to sell Canada to Italians and Italians to Canada.
And that also opens up an opportunity for ourselves through the Institute of Italian Studies to also, you know, collaborate with your paper. What can we do as an institute here in Thunder Bay to help bring that message across to Italian Canadians, or Canadians who love the Italian culture and would like to know more about, you know, what makes us Italian?
Well, I had occasion to do something that people might think is a little trite and small, but for me it's a really big deal. The experience of Italian Canadians up here in Thunder Bay, in the middle of North America, literally the middle, well, it's a couple of 100 kilometers to the east of the middle, is an experience that most Italians in Italy, most Europeans just can't fathom. And people in southern Ontario don't even know about it. But there are great historic, in my view, examples of entrepreneurship, but most important, of a spirit of adventure that has an Italian stamp on it. And nobody's telling that story. I want to tell that story. I think that the Institute is already researching those stories. I want to grab that research. I want to be able to publish it in my paper, just because I feel that, you know, Italians everywhere need to be connected. In Canada, they should be connected, but they should be connected through the kinds of achievements they've got. The Institute has got this initiative that it says we want to tell the story that's local, that's ours. But I don't think it's a local story. I think it's an international story. And when my colleagues, when my friends in Toronto say, Thunder Bay, where's that? Ooh, 2,200 kilometers northwest of Toronto. You know, it takes 2 hours to get there by plane, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's thinking about obstacles. And I'd say, no, we've got to tell that story. We've got to tell the story of all of those small settlements that populate the entire Northwest. We're there. So are other people, but we're there too. And the fact that Northern Ontario has actually been developed, it's been thanks not to the money that's come out of Bay Street or London or, you know, New York. It's been developed because people like the ones that are watching this program, whether they are Italian or they're French or Scottish or Aboriginal or, you know, and Finnish, the fact that they were actually able to work together and fashion out a society it's really an attractive environment, and some people want to keep it hidden. I think that's a story we want to tell. We want to tell everybody, you know, it's okay, you know, people have done lots of things throughout the world, and everybody's in love with the new technologies, etc. But you know what? The regular life, the everyday life of everybody who gets up in the morning to earn a living and to do it in an environment this far away from people who think that the world, you know, the sun rises and sets on their every breath. This is a marvel, and we got to tell that story because it's got us in it.
Well, Joe, Mr. Volpe, really glad that you had a chance to come and visit us here in Thunder Bay. We're really glad from the Institute to take the initiative to, invite you, and we look forward to your presentation today and tonight. And
We're gonna work
hopefully
together.
we can collaborate in the future to bring this positive message across Canada and the rest of the world.
Well, think of the Corriere Canadese as yours.